Do you ever wonder what would happen if Tanjiro was trained by the original inventor of the sun-breathing technique, Yoriichi? Would Tanjiro be stronger? Stick around until the end of the video to find out. Also, to show thanks to you guys for supporting the channel, the 100th comment on this video will get a shout out in the next video. So comment down below right now for a chance to be featured on the channel. So in this what-if scenario, everything in Tanjiro's life would remain the same, but there would be one small twist. Tanjiro would be trained by Yoriichi through his visions. So that would mean that Yoriichi still died with old age, and everything from the past remains untouched. So how would all this happen? Tanjiro's life would remain the same in the early parts of his journey. His family would still be slaughtered by Muzan. He would still find out that Nezuko is turned into a demon, and Tanjiro would still be saved by Giyu, the water Hashira. The part where things would change would be where Urokodaki starts training Tanjiro. In the original story, Tanjiro would meet Sabito and Makomo, who would help him slice the rock. But in this story, Tanjiro would meet Yoriichi instead. The reason why Yoriichi would appear would be through the sun-breathing technique. Since Yoriichi is the original user of this breathing style, it would make sense that he could communicate with other sun-breathing users. In this part of the story, Yoriichi wouldn't specifically show Tanjiro how to use sun-breathing quite yet, since Tanjiro's first time using Hinokami Kaguru was when he fought Rui on the Natagumo arc. So Yoriichi would just teach Tanjiro the fundamentals of being a demon slayer. After this, Tanjiro would still go on to the final selection and would still pass it along with Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, and Ginya. Fast forward to Tanjiro's fight with Rui. This is where the Hinokami Kaguru first makes its appearance. As Tanjiro is about to be slashed by Rui's threads, in the original story, he gets a flashback of his father talking about Hinokami Kaguru, and that's where he unlocks the sun-breathing technique. But in this story, it would actually be pretty similar. As Rui's threads are about to slash Tanjiro, he hears a familiar voice, the voice that helped him in his training. It was Yoriichi. He tells Tanjiro to remember the dance that his father used to dance. Tanjiro would unlock Hinokami Kaguru through this and would be able to slice Rui's head. But as we all know, it wasn't enough to kill Rui, but luckily Giyu was able to arrive at the last minute to save Tanjiro and Nezuko. Throughout the story, Yoriichi would appear as a spirit to Tanjiro to teach and show him about the sun-breathing techniques. It can be through events like the rehabilitation arc that Yoriichi would appear in Tanjiro's dreams while he is still unconscious, and they would have conversations about how to use sun-breathing and past experiences. Yoriichi would also teach Tanjiro about the things that need to be noted when using this breathing style, like what to do after using it for a long period of time, and how to properly execute the breathing techniques to a point where Tanjiro can have an advantage over his opponents. Now, how would this affect the story? Well, due to Tanjiro being trained by the original sun-breathing user Yoriichi, he would be a much stronger demon slayer than he already is early on his journey. Yoriichi wouldn't necessarily be alive, physically training Tanjiro, but he would share experiences and techniques that he himself learned while being a demon slayer in his time to Tanjiro as a spirit. Tanjiro would slowly but surely master the different forms of sun-breathing, even without pushing himself to the limits. This would give Tanjiro the edge over most fights. Not to mention, he'll have the single strongest breathing technique there is. Tanjiro would be promoted to a Hashira much earlier in the story. It would happen after the events of the Entertainment District arc, where Tengen retires from being a Hashira due to him losing his left hand and left eye, making it hard for him to complete his duties as a Hashira with a disability. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about Tanjiro being able to use the sun-breathing technique better with the guidance of Yoriichi? Well, it's true that Tanjiro this time around would be stronger than he usually is in this fight with Gyutaro and Daki, but we need to remember that Gyutaro and Daki were the first demons that Tanjiro faced that had a special condition. In order to kill them, both of their heads have to be sliced at the same time. So that condition itself would be hard enough for Tanjiro to the point where he could not stop the inevitable from happening, making Tengen still lose his left hand and eye from the battle. After Tengen's retirement, Ubuyashiki immediately recognizes Tanjiro's potential and strength, enough to promote him to a Hashira on the spot. After this, Tanjiro would be trained by the other Hashiras so that he could catch up to their level. After his training, he would be sent to the swordsmith village to get a new sword to match his strength like the other Hashiras. Here, he would meet Gyoko and Hantengu. He would make quick work of Gyoko since not only is Tanjiro a user of the sun-breathing technique and is being trained by the one and only Yoriichi, but he is also now on Hashira level thanks to the training with the other Hashiras. And since in the original story, Gyoko was defeated by only Muichiro, it's safe to say that this version of Tanjiro can handle Gyoko. Then there's Hantengu. We have to admit, this version of Tanjiro is strong, but he can't beat the numbers game on Hantengu. Hantengu's emotions are strong because they can pose threats as individuals, so if they work together as a team, then they can give anyone a hard time when it comes to fighting. But Tanjiro won't be alone. Muichiro would fight with him, while Mitsuri would be protecting the village. Having another Hashira along with Tanjiro would change the favor of our protagonist's side. Muichiro is one of the more stronger Hashiras, being the first Hashira to ever beat an Upper Moon alone. The battle at the Infinity Castle would still be an all-out war since that is the final battle, and it's either win or lose here. Tanjiro and Giyu's match against Akaza would still end the same since Akaza is one of the stronger Upper Moons. Even with Tanjiro's proper sun-breathing training with Yoriichi, they can't easily beat Akaza, who is nothing but a beast when it comes to fighting. Akaza would still kill himself in the end for the same reason in the original story when he knew that the people he wanted to protect died a long time ago, and he lost the will to fight. Of course, Tanjiro's sun-breathing technique would be a big factor here, but Akaza's regeneration is just too fast, and if he still wanted to fight, he would have done so easily. The final fight against Muzan would have a different scenario to end the story. Even with Tanjiro's proper training with the sun-breathing technique from Yoriichi, they would all still struggle with Muzan, especially in his awakened form. Muzan's power is just far greater than any demon slayer present in that fight, so the only thing that they could do was stall him. Yoriichi was just different in his time that he could solo Muzan. In Tanjiro's time, even with Yoriichi's training, he can only go so far. The only option they still have is to stall Muzan until the sun rises. Fast forward to when Tanjiro gets turned into a demon, this is where things would change. Demon King Tanjiro is superior to Demon King Muzan because of one factor. Demon King Tanjiro can walk in the sun. That's the one thing that Muzan lacks. But there is one significant change in this story than in the original. In the original story, Demon King Tanjiro isn't stable like Muzan. However, in this timeline, Demon King Tanjiro is stable due to the training that Yoriichi did for Tanjiro. He is able to extremely focus and not lose consciousness over his body. Kanao tries to turn him back into a human with Tamayo's antidote, but he wipes it out of his way, pushing away Kanao in the process. Now with this in mind, Demon King Tanjiro is just too strong for any of the Demon Slayers to handle since he is immune to sunlight, and the only chance the Demon Slayers had against Muzan was to stall him until the sun rises. With Demon King Tanjiro being practically unbeatable, no one from the Demon Slayer Corps can stand against him. Demon King Tanjiro wipes out the Demon Slayer Corps. The Demon Slayers are unsuccessful in their mission, and they've lost to the demons. Tanjiro being trained by Yoriichi can truly change a lot of things in the story, wouldn't you agree? But for more videos like this, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Also, have you ever wondered what would happen if the 12 Kizuki and Hashira teamed up to fight Muzan? Are you rocking with the 12 Kizuki and Hashira, or Michael Jackson? Stick around until the next video to find out what happens. Thanks for watching. Peace.